All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike here. Now riding my train of thought. It's time to talk about Miami Mock Mondays. And before we get into that, we're going to get into the draft day hat that just dropped earlier today. New Era just released it. And it looks kind of basic to me at the surface, but I do like the chrome. I do like the chrome finish. I dig that around the logo. The draft pin I could do without, to be honest. I don't really need or care for it, but if I get it, then cool, I'll just remove the pin, whatever, and use it for other stuff. And the other thing I do like about this hat, though, I like the interior brim where with the palm trees. I think that's pretty dope. And then obviously the snapback portion of it, which you can kind of see also in chrome with the Dolphins name and font and all that. I dig that. I think that's pretty cool. I can rock with that. So maybe I will get this hat. At first when I saw it, I was like, I don't know. Maybe I don't vibe with it. Like, unlike the 2021 draft day hat, which is becoming one of my favorite hats. You guys have seen me wear it every now and again with a lot of my pictures that I'm in. I like this hat. I think this hat is fine. I think this hat will do just fine. Maybe I will wear it and acquire it upon going to Pittsburgh. I do plan on going to the NFL draft now that we're close to a month away from the proceedings in Pittsburgh. I do plan on going to night one at the very least. And if not, then maybe I'll try to connect with other Dolphins, either at Slattery's up in New York or something around here in the Philly area. But we're going to get into that. I'll try to spread the word about ideas for that later on, and or go to Slattery's. Anyway, let's talk about Miami Mock Mondays and the draft itself that I jumped into. Remember, I got 11 picks to talk about. Let's get to business. With said 11th pick, I decided to stick with what I did last week. Last week, I went with Vega Ione, and I said, you know what? We're going to screw this whole square peg round hole business. We're going to move Vega Ione to the left guard spot where he played for many years at Penn State, and move Jonas Alvanea to the right guard spot where I think he would be more comfortable, where a lot of us think he could be more comfortable. As I mentioned last week in the comps, Vega Ione was a deliverer of pancakes on Saturday afternoons or various other game days. He would be bringing a lot of pain to a lot of defensive linemen, and basically putting them on the ground was his only mission in life during football games. And if he is a A-tier version of Quentin Nelson, I think that is a great idea. Where Quentin Nelson's first ballot Hall of Famer, Vega Ione is just an awesome left guard in the NFL. I can 100% see that. And I would love for him to be providing blocks for Devon Achane, who is apparently staying, as he should, and or Ollie Gordon and or Jalen Wright. So I'm okay with this. And he can also pass pro, which is something I'm truly here for. I want more maulers, more athleticism on the offensive line, more dudes that can generally block and handle theirs on the offensive line. Speaking of which, I decided to stick with the O-line with the 30th pick and decided to go fill out the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to the right tackle spot eventually. Max Enanker from Arizona State. Big, mauling, physical dude who is a right tackle. He also played some guard at ASU, and that would work as well. I'd be okay with that, where he could slide in at the guard spot for now with Austin Jackson being there, and then if they move on from Austin, all right, so be it. Enanker can slide to the right, like it's a cha-cha flow, and then basically deliver other kinds of pancakes and continue to maul people. That's a big, powerful dude, a nasty dude who knows what he's doing when it comes to blocking. Now, his technical skills do need to be refined a little bit, but the raw power can't be coached. He's got that. The tech skills, I think, will absolutely be able to be developed. And Josh Neiman is his player comp, which is ironic because he was a Packer. And these guys are coming from Green Bay. Green Bay had some good physical offensive lines. Let's replicate that. Let's get some dudes that know how to block some dudes and serve pancakes. I'm here for that. We've got two very good ones in Paul and Aaron Brewer who know what they're doing. Let's fill out the rest of this line and figure the rest of this out. So this is my solution for this week in terms of how to do such a thing. So, all right, we got the offensive line addressed. Let's talk about the cornerback room. And I was a little surprised about Colton Hood falling to the 43rd pick, but he did. He did fall to the 43rd, and that's a move I immediately ran to the board to go get. Colton Hood showed himself that he can be a number one corner if pressed into that kind of duty. Where Gerard McCoy had the ACL injury, which knocked him out for 2025, Hood stepped in and said, bet, I got it. I'll take it from here. And he did. He did a very good job at Tennessee for 2025. And because of his way to plaster on the receivers, because of his way that he can stick to receivers like glue, the way his physical style seems to work, the comp that I was able to see was Trent McDuffie, who has got that kind of similar physical style to him, McDuffie being the new Ram. But as we saw in Kansas City, Trent McDuffie turned himself into a really, really good corner. And obviously the ties that bind, and perhaps some cruel irony, McDuffie was eventually the first-round pick that Kansas City would trade down with the Patriots and then acquire in that 22 draft right after Miami got Tyreek Hill. So the fact that we could kind of go 6 degrees of separation here and then tie that together is kind of wild. But that's the way the player comp apparently went. So it went Trent McDuffie. And that's a move I totally like because McDuffie is a tremendous corner. I would take that. So the receivers in this mock draft really flew off the board in these first few rounds. A lot of the main receivers like Ted Hurst or Bryce Lance or Chris Brassell or Denzel Boston. A lot of the main receivers that you've seen me take in the first couple of rounds of this draft were just off the board by then. So I had to pivot and kind of counter and say, all right, let's go with a different approach. Let's go with a tight end that can split the seams. Oscar Delp being said tight end. Maybe a poor man's Brock Bowers with the way he can, he's athletic, just not a one-of-one generational type of athleticism that Bowers is. And where Delp, I think, is a very good seam splitter, but he could also be a pretty solid blocker. He's not awesome, but he's good. He's good enough where I don't think you have to take him off the field in obvious passing downs. I think he can hold his own as a blocker if absolutely need be. And though his comp is not Brock Bowers, and that's unfortunate because Brock Bowers is hard to comp, his comp turned out to be another Packer, Big Bob Tunyon. Robert Tunyon, for a couple of years, especially with Aaron Rodgers, turned into a very dynamic tight end and a very productive one where he was a matchup problem, especially in the red zone for a lot of teams and a lot of defenses. And I can live with that when it comes to a more explosive tight end. I don't mind Greg Dulcich. Don't get it confused. Dulcich has shown himself to be a pretty good tight end. But giving me a second one that can be a potential threat and make life easier for Malik Willis, I think I can rock with that. And that would be the play for this pick at 75, Oscar Delp. Linebacker is another interesting spot for me. I did want to get a little bit more versatility in understanding that Jordan Brooks and Tyrell Dotson are good linebackers, and I've not lost sight of the point that it's on the board that Jordan Brooks gets traded, especially if it's Dallas. It's hasn't lost sight of that. So to counter and to pivot that, I wanted to go get some more versatility. And even if we keep Brooks, which I think we absolutely should, it would be good to have a third linebacker and another outside one that can be incredibly versatile, very rangy, can make some plays if necessary when it comes to making moves happen. Jake Golday was available at 87, and I was a little surprised he got there, to be honest. So I decided to snatch him there. And I think he can be a plug-and-play type of cat at the opposite side, flanking Brooks with Dotson, obviously, as the weak side. Or you can switch it up and go with the weak side for the rook and Dotson for the strong side. But either way, I like Golday's versatility. When it comes to he can get home if he has to as a blitzer. He can be a rangy cover linebacker with his size and his speed. He can stick to running backs. He's not the greatest at shedding blockers, but I'm not necessarily using him like lined up against a left tackle, for example. I'd rather he come off the edge in a blitz situation if we're going to do that. But I like it. I think he would work out as a kind of an all-purpose linebacker. And his player comp turned out to be another all-purpose linebacker, Alex Anzalone in Detroit, who has shown himself to be a really versatile player. Like, we're, okay, bad, he can blitz, but also he's just a really short tackler. And it's just a really good player, glue guy you want to have in your locker room is Alex Anzalone. And I can't help but think is Golday kind of another Andrew Van Ginkel clone, which a lot of Dolphins fans love Andrew Van Ginkel. Can Golday kind of be that as well, where he can be rangy and cover, but at the same time as a good blitzer and maybe even make a play on the ball where that patented Van Ginkel play where he reads the screen like a book and just takes it to the crib. Can Golday even be that? I think he could be. I think he's a decent playmaker at linebacker. And that would be a pretty solid pick to me at 87. So this is the part where I would take 90 and a Sutton. Because as I've said, I take DDS at some point between 87 and 94. I've seen him in a few mocks that I've been able to do to kind of practice trial run, where DDS was taken in the 70s. That's how high his stock has been rising over the last few weeks. As I've said, his comp being Preston Smith, ironically another Packer, because of the high motor, because of the power game that he uses, and his lack of refinement per se in terms of a speed rush, I think is a pretty fair comp. And I like his comp of power compared to Chop Robinson using speed and giving the best of both worlds in terms of pass rushers from Penn State. So DDS was the pick here. Again, that's the move I would make at 90 if he is there at 90. I'm not taking chances. I don't think he gets past, gets to 130. There's no way he gets to 130. So now I'm at 94. Obviously, the other Broncos pick, the second of the three Denver picks here. And you've probably noticed there are no receivers, not wide ones, in this draft so far. I took care of that, and I took maybe the most dynamic one that's going to be taken outside of the first round, Zachariah Branch, where that's a guy you can get the ball in space and let him work. And we saw that at Georgia because of his speed and his ability to just make people miss and just be incredibly elusive. That is a gadget guy, sure. That's a guy off a kick returns, bet. He can do that. Now, Malik Washington's a good kick returner. Don't get that confused. But what's better than having one really good kick returner? Two. Let's do that. Zachariah Branch, yes, is small, and I've been saying for a while now I would love a bigger, more physical receiver to complement the smaller dudes on this team. But Zachariah Branch, his value, I think, at 94 is too good to pass up, and I decided to just scoop him up here. And maybe he can work out similar to how Baltimore's used Zay Flowers, where that's a player comp I've used before, and I think that kind of sticks in the sense of Flowers being a get him the ball in space type of dude, a guy who's really good at running the routes and has got very reliable hands for the most part. We remember the AFC Championship fumble. We remember that. But I think he would be a pretty good comp to Zach Branch, Zay Flowers would be. So Branch at 94, if he gets there and Miami doesn't have a receiver already, maybe too good to pass up. But don't worry, I did not forget that we needed a big physical receiver and decided to snatch one with the next pick, Malachi Fields, who I was kind of concerned that he would not fall this far. But he turns out he did, which I will gladly take it, and I will gladly take it and run because of his 6'4", 50-50, gotta have it. I need one of those types of dudes at the corners of end zones. He could just loft it up to him and say, go get it, Malachi Fields. Bet. Malachi Fields has shown himself at Virginia and Notre Dame that he could do such a thing and just go get the football if it's up. And it's a 50-50 ball. Nah, for him, it's more like 80-20 when Fields can control his body like that. Which I think if he works out similar to the guy who's probably the best at it in the league in T. Higgins, where he can just contort his body however he needs to go make a big play, to make a catch and make spectacular catches at that, I think that T. Higgins is a pretty fair comp to Malachi Fields. So I think I wanted to complement the receiver room, get me another fast guy, because obviously Miami just traded away one fast dude and released the fastest dude we've maybe ever seen in the modern era in terms of playing the receiver position. Let's replace that speed with some speed and then replace some power or get some power on the outside as well. I went back to Penn State for the next pick, and it was Ike Wheatley. I needed a safety. I needed a taller safety. Wheatley's not necessarily the most physical safety, but he's a playmaker, and that's one thing Miami sorely needs: guys that can take the ball from you. And Wheatley has shown himself over the time at Penn State. He can take the ball from you, and he can play really well in center field. Obviously, using his 6'3" frame, but help matters when dealing with the receivers and tight ends that he may have to cover. I think Wheatley has shown himself to be a solid cover safety in that realm as well, and the versatility. I think he could get a little bit better with the tackling, slightly better with the physicality, but no real complaints. He showed himself to be a fine player at Penn State when it came to trying to stuff the run. He showed himself to be decent there as well. Now, I think it's kind of a poor man's Kyle Hamilton. I think is a very fair assessment. I don't think he's fully there on the Hamilton scale, but I do think he is a kind of a poor man's version, where I don't think he's not Caleb Downs level, but I do think he can be in that mold, in that kind of, okay, you can probably put him mostly anywhere and he should be able to produce type time. So if he's a poor man's Kyle Hamilton, that's something I think you'd gladly take, because Kyle Hamilton's amazing and all that. So this is normally the part where I would take Drew Allar. Drew Allar was gone in the 170s this time, and for a lot of the mocks I was able to do the kind of trial run this. So I pivoted and went with another edge rusher in Cian Sloan, who is an edge rusher from NC State. Now, in his case, he's kind of an edge rusher / linebacker, so he really can play 3-4 or 4-3, good tweener potential here. And the other part to his game is that he can also cover a little bit and use that speed and athleticism, which are kind of his strengths. The run defense could certainly improve, no question, but the first step when it comes to rushing the passer, he can't coach that. He's got that, and that works. His player comp is Carter Coughlin of the Giants, who had a respectable year and actually earned another contract with the Giants this offseason. So it's a good look for Coughlin. In the case of Sloan, he actually had 7.5 sacks in 2024. A little bit of a down year in terms of sacking the quarterback in 25, but he did get the pressures up, and obviously, as I mentioned before, he can also cover a good deal in space if needed. So that kind of a versatile pick for round number 7. The first of 2 picks in round 7. And the second one, I decided to sort of double up at the linebacker spot and go with Eric Gentry from USC. And the interesting part about Gentry to me is the simple fact that he is a really very movable, very versatile chess piece. He can cover using a 6'7" frame. I think he can be a matchup nightmare when necessary. The speed is ridiculous. He's actually comes in at 220, 230. So I think he can hold his own as a safety in the NFL. And maybe he can hold his own as a linebacker in the NFL. I think he could be just a dynamic chess piece and come off the edge as a blitzer if necessary. Now, the slender frame could be a little bit of a problem with dealing with just mauler type dudes or good tackles. Sure. But I do think that Gentry can hold his own perhaps in the NFL, similar to maybe like an Isaiah Simmons, who have shown himself to be a little bit of the smaller side, but at the same time, just a dynamic chess piece where you can move Simmons around to a lot of different places, and he has moved around to a lot of different NFL places and turned himself into a decent, respectable linebacker. Never to the height of heights of the top 10 overall pick that he was, but at the very least, a decent linebacker who's carved out a pretty solid career. I think with Gentry, he could be such a thing and kind of be a versatile spot for Jeff Hafley's defense, where you can kind of plug and play him wherever you need to and let him go to work. And I think that'll be a very useful spot to me to finish up this round 7 and the 11 picks of this mock draft. So there you have it. That is Miami Mock Mondays. This is volume 10, I do believe. And there's a couple more to go. Once again, for April, I will continue to do this on Mondays. And then the Thursday, the day of the draft itself, will be the final of the mock drafts. And then I'll have videos reacting to said drafts, whether I'm in Philly or New York or Pittsburgh, wherever I'm going to be for the day in question. Coming up this week, though, Power Rankings, NBA and NHL. I will do them both more than likely Wednesday and Thursday some combination of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think would be the more realistic timeline. Some combination of those 3 days for those two power rankings. For baseball, I'm going to wait until the Miami Mock Mondays are done. So it'll be the Monday after the draft. That's when the baseball power rankings will resume. It obviously gives more time to think, okay, this is what a team is looking like a month in. But that being said, NHL, you're going to come first, and Vancouver, you're going to be the first stop of my next train of thought.